A short background of Indonesia. In the post-independence of Indonesia, there are four main historical periods, which is fragile parliamentary governance under Sukarno on 1950 until 1957, the guided democracy under Sukarno on 1959 until 1965, the new order under Suharto on 1967 until 98, and the liberal democratic reform under multiple residents on 1999 until now. Indonesia has made impressive democratic gains since the fall of an authoritarian regime in 1998, establishing significant pluralism in politics and the media and undergoing multiple peaceful transfer of power between parties. However, the country continues to struggle with challenge including systematic corruption, discrimination, and violence against some minority groups, separatist tension in the Papua region, and the politicized use of defamation and blasphemy laws. The politics of Indonesia take place in the framework of a presidential representative democratic republic whereby the president of Indonesia is both head of state and also head of government. Executive is exercised by the government. Legislative power is vested in both government and the two people's representative council, while the judiciary is independent of the executive and the legislature. This is a map showing the location of Indonesia. Indonesia is an archipelagic country located in Southeast Asia, lying between the Indian Ocean and the Pacific Ocean. Indonesia has population 250 million people spread out over 70,000 islands. More than half of population live on island of Java. Indonesia has the world's largest Muslim population, which is 85% of population are Muslim in Indonesia. Indonesia has large number of ethnic groups with their own distinct culture identity, languages, religion, which is more than 300 regional languages. The main export of Indonesia is oil and gas, plywood, textiles, rubber, and also palm oil. Electoral process of Indonesia. The elections in Indonesia have taken place since 1955 to elect a legislature. At a national level, Indonesian people did not elect the president until 2004. The elections are held every 5 years since that. The voting age is 70 years old. However, married persons regardless of age can vote. Around 192 million of Indonesia are eligible voters. Elections in Indonesia have been described as the biggest and the most complex in the world. Elections are usually held on Monday. The polling stations open around 7 a.m. and close at 5 p.m. Elections are set and overseen by the National Election Commission or KPU. Voters stick a pin through a piece of paper with the symbol of each party on it and have their fingers marked with edible ink to prevent them from voting more than once.
Indonesia is using a proportional system for its national legislatures. At the national level, Indonesian people will elect a head of state, which is the president. President is elected for a 5-year term. Members of the People Representative Council are elected by proportional representation from multi-candidate constituencies. Under Indonesia's multi-party system, no party has yet been able to secure an outright majority in a democratic election.
Proportional representation is an electoral system in which the number of seats held by a political group or party in a legislative body is determined by the number of popular votes received. General elections were held in Indonesia on 17 April 2019. For the first time in the country's history, the president, the vice president, members of the assembly, and legislative bodies were elected on the same day with over 119 million voters eligible to vote.
In order to run for the presidency, a candidate has to be supported by political parties totaling 20% of the seat in the People's Representative Council or 25% of the popular vote in the previous legislative elections in 2014.
A winning candidate was required to win a majority and is also required to win at least 20% of the votes in over half of Indonesia's provinces.
If no candidate pairs fulfill the criteria, the election will have been repeated with a maximum of 2 participants. For legislative election, members of People's Representative Council and the Regional People's Representative Councils were elected from multi-member electoral district through voting with an open list system.
Henry Satrianto, a political analyst and the founder public opinion polling agency says the issue of human rights will not put a damper on Prabowo's electability. He says the problem that are being considered in the minds of Indonesian voters are the economy and legal issues. Jokowi has been criticized for not doing more to address abuses of human and minority rights, as well as rising extremism to prevent separation hardliners in the world's most populous Muslim nation.
Joko Widodo. Joko Widodo was born at Mulyono on 21 June 1961. He also known as Jokowi. He is an Indonesian politician who is the 7th President of Indonesia. He was elected in July 2014 as the first Indonesian president not come from an elite political or military background. He was previously the mayor of Surakarta and the governor of Jakarta. Seen as a rising star in Indonesian politics, PDIP nominated Jokowi for the 2014 presidential election. Winning a majority of the popular vote, he was named president-elect on 22 July 2014 to beat the protest from his opponent Prabowo Subianto. As president, Jokowi has primarily focused on infrastructure, introducing or restarting long-delayed programs to build highways, high-speed rail, airports, and other facilities. On foreign policy, his administration has placed an emphasis on protecting Indonesia's sovereignty, with the sinking of illegal foreign fishing vessels. After 4 years in office, Jokowi's approval ratings remain high. He ran for re-election in the April 2019 presidential election and quick count result indicates that he won with an estimate 54% of the vote. Prabowo Subianto. Prabowo Subianto di Jojo Hadikusumo was born on 17 October 1951. He is an Indonesian politician, businessman, and former Army Lieutenant General. He is the former husband of Titiek Suharto, the late President Suharto's second daughter. Prabowo graduated from the Indonesian Military Army on 1970. That same year, he was dishonorably discharged from the military and subsequently banned from entering the United States because of alleged human rights violations. In the 2009 presidential election, he ran unsuccessfully for the vice presidency as Megawati Soekarno Putri's running mate. He contested the 2014 presidential election and was defeated by Jakarta Governor Joko Widodo. He ran again for the presidency in 2019 with Sandiaga Uno as his running mate and with the support of Gerindra, the Prosperous Justice Party (PKS), the National Mandate Party (PAN), the Democratic Party and Berkarya Party.
About 192 million people in Indonesia are eligible to cast their vote in a general election on 17 April 2019. About 245,000 candidates will be running for more than 23,000 national and local legislative seats across the country, made up of around 80,000 islands and covering 1.9 million kilometers. According to election commissions, Around 40% of eligible voters will be aged 17 to 35. The official result for these elections is on 22nd May 2019. Based on the current result, we can see that Jokowi is leading in the election. For the future of Indonesia, we can see that it is still the biggest democratic country in Southeast Asia and third democratic in the world. However, in our opinion, if Prabowo wins this election, it might be affected by the interference of military rules and system. This is because Prabowo's background as a former general military of Indonesia.
We think the election in Indonesia will run freely and fair. This is because there are election monitors from 33 countries invited to observe. Indonesians are also fierce defenders of their democracy, with many voters remaining at their polling station during the last election to watch the count. Moreover, 6 million election workers have been recruited and trained to oversee more than 810,000 polling stations spread across hundreds of islands. The polling staff will travel by airplane, boat, and foot from isolated mountain villages to tiny islets.
Their mission is to ensure that Indonesia's 193 million voters can freely and fairly select a president, parliamentarian, and local legislators. Running a clean election campaigns and have run on local radios, banners, stickers, and leaflets have been distributed across the province. Innovative social media campaigns on Facebook, Instagram, and organizing petitions saying no to money politics in the 2019 elections.